Well, that was quick. So, what's going on, everybody? Good late afternoon, early evening. Before I get into the actual Seahawks content, there will be a Seahawks dedicated stream tonight on my channel. We're just going to spend about an hour talking about some of the coaching moves that have been made over the last few days, primarily the ones that were announced this morning with Desai, Dickerson, and Solari. So if you want to come on stream and talk about it, just one stream dedicated to just talking about Seahawks stuff, then definitely make sure you're there. We're going to stream for about an hour. Keep an eye on the start time, by the way, because I may move it. Right now it's 6:30. So by the time this goes up, it'll be about an hour from then. But yeah, I may move it to 7. I'm not sure yet, but we're going to talk about some of the recent movements with this organization and where we stand headed into the first week of the off season, really, in terms of actually being able to alter your roster in some way. So be there tonight at right now 6:30. I may move it to 7. It depends. So this morning I uploaded a video talking about the potential of a Russell Wilson trade. And one thing that I said in that video, because most of that video was about how I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it makes sense to happen. I don't think I want it to happen. After really stepping back and taking a look at where we are as an organization right now, where Wilson is, where this team is, where the prospective teams that could trade for Wilson are, I basically said I don't want to trade him and I don't see a trade happening. But one thing that I said in that video was the one thing that is kind of holding me back from fully committing to that is Russell Wilson doesn't sound like he's fully committed here. And I talked about how a lot of his comments I felt were wishy-washy in saying that he wanted to stay here. It was always something like, hopefully I can stay here. It was always something along the lines of, well, we'll see what happens. I want to be here, but I don't know what's going to happen. Yes, you do know. You have a no trade clause. So every time I heard him say stuff like that, I couldn't help but think to myself, does he want to be here? And I think that based off some of the way he's been structuring his answers to these questions, you could make a pretty good argument that Russell Wilson didn't want to be here but wasn't willing to ask for a trade and become the villain in all this. Well, as of just not even an hour ago, I think, that's kind of changed a little bit. I guess Russell Wilson watches my videos. That's the only explanation, right? Russell Wilson must watch my videos. He saw what I said and he was like, you know what? That guy's right. Yeah, I do need to assert my commitment to the Seahawks a little bit more. So he went on, I think it was the Mad Dog show on Sirius, and they were talking, and at one point during the discussion, they got to the discussion of whether or not Wilson should be moving on to another team. And Mad Dog kind of put him on the spot, and Wilson gave a more definitive answer than what I've seen from him recently. I'm not going to play the clip on stream because somebody's going to come and shoot me if I do, I'm sure. I know how this works. But basically what he said is he wants to stay here and his goal is to retire a Seahawk. He compared him to like Tom Brady and Drew Brees, guys who played for the same team for a long time. He wants to be one of those guys. And with an answer like that, even though, yes, technically he could have put his foot down a little harder than he did, I feel like at least if you take him at his word, it's hard to imagine any kind of trade happening this offseason. It just is. So, granted, he can change his mind, and he's well within his rights to change his mind. If this offseason kicks off and we're not signing anybody and we're not improving the team in the right ways, we're not attacking free agency, then Wilson may go, you know what? This isn't working out. And I would understand that. I wouldn't like it because, as I've said many times before, I'm a Seahawks fan and I want what's best for this team. But I would understand him then changing his mind. But as of right now, his mind seems pretty settled. At the very least, he's saying that. And I appreciate that. Even if he's mentally, internally going, well, we'll see. We'll see what we do this offseason. We'll see if I want to stick to that statement. We'll see if I feel that way in a couple of months if we just bring back Dwayne Brown and Ethan Posick and call it a day. Stuff like that. I could still maybe see that happening. But this is pretty committing. And if you take Wilson at his word, this should be dead now. Because it doesn't seem like the team wants to trade him. It doesn't seem like the player wants to get traded. So how is a trade going to happen? All these different parties have to come together here. Okay, Wilson has to want out because of the no trade clause. The team needs to want him out. And when I say the team, I mean Carroll, Schneider, and Jody. So I think that as of right now, as a rational Seahawks fan, the only thing to say is that it's just not going to happen right now. And until we have a sign that something big has changed, that's just the mentality. So I was a little critical of Wilson in the video I posted this morning about how I wish he would kind of be a little more firm in his desire to stay here, at least the way he publicly expresses himself. Because, again, even if he wants to be here, when he answers the way that he was answering, when he kind of says, well, we'll see what happens, it feeds into the media cycle where they go, oh, did you hear what he said? Okay, we got to drum up 800 new Seahawks Wilson trade rumors. But with a statement like this, it's going to be a little harder to drum it up because there are now quite a few barriers between Wilson actually getting traded and where we are right now. And technically, yes, he could have come out and said, hey, I'm going to refuse any trade suggestion because I want to stay here. But, I mean, look, if it ever came to the point where the team wanted him to go, I wouldn't expect him to use his no trade clause as some kind of, like, leash to force himself to stay. In trying to be a little bit fair here, I wouldn't expect Russell Wilson to demand to stay if the team wanted him to go. I don't think any player should really do that. If the team wants you out, what are you going to do at that point? Are you really going to... I can understand using the no trade clause to block a trade to a terrible team that you don't want any part of, but I wouldn't expect him to do that. So I think that's fine. I think him still leaving the door open a tiny bit is understandable when he says, I want to stay here, instead of saying, I guarantee I will stay here because I'm going to force myself to stay here because I have that power in my contract. But I'm not going to put that on him. I'm going to step back and say, okay, that's a reasonable position to have as of right now. And yeah, that's basically what I wanted from him. If he's not going to request a trade, then I wanted him to say something like this. And he now has. So he watched my video this morning, I guess, and he was like, yeah, I got to put myself out there a little bit more. So see you guys in about an hour for the stream. Go Hawks. And look, you're going to hear a lot of stuff this offseason, but this kind of statement from Wilson has to weigh far more than anything you hear from a Mike Garofalo or an Ian Rappaport. See you guys later.